Alright, small update video, completely out of order since I've never posted anything about this project, but you can see here this bolt is super bent, not concentric at all from the head to the shoulder to the threaded shank, so that's rad. Sprocket Center shipped me the wrong fucking primary sprockets, that's also super cool. My packing slip even says 15, and they sent me a 16, so that's super cool. To their credit, they're going to ship me a prepaid envelope for the other one, and they got the other one mailed out today, so that was rad, so credit to them. Um, the bike, so get this light thing out of the way. It's a little dark, so kind of hard to see, but I've got all the shims and buckets pulled out of the rear head. Looks pretty clean. Everything's been, I don't know, about as I would expect for a bike that's been cared for as little as this one has been by the previous owner. I bought it from the original owner, but the guy was just a total fucking tool bag. So that was cool. You can see the cam sprocket holder tool is in place right now. That thing, at least I knew in advance from AF1, was going to require modification. I guess the tool is, it looks like it's actually blanked, just stamped out of steel, or maybe plasma cut because the edges are pretty shitty. But the holes, excuse me, all need to be egged out so the screws can actually screw into the head. The arms of the tool don't really align, but it basically did what it was supposed to, and thankfully I didn't have hardly any trouble sliding it onto the tool. So the cam sprocket is now stuck there. Bummer about working on this motor is even if you had two of those tools, because it requires rotating the crank, come around this side of the bike, there's this neato mechanism where there is a little dimple or a little divot in the side of the crank itself in one of the counterweights. So you thread this giant M6 bolt into it to lock it into place. So you can't actually check, or at least you can't actually adjust both heads at the same time. You can check the clearances without taking too much stuff apart, but when it comes to actually adjusting them, you're limited to doing one head at a time. So now the next chapter is doing the math, checking all of the specs for the stuff that I need, and given the shim kit that I ordered, apparently it comes in a certain range, and wouldn't you know it, I need 3 shims that are just a fraction of a millimeter outside of that range. So the only thing to be done is to order them individually because the full kit that carries every single shim you could possibly need, and 5 of them, is like $600. So I'm not doing that. But you can see how small these things are for scale, even though I have small hands. They're smaller than my fingerprint, so tiny little shims, but very important to the motor's correct operation, and if I'm this deep, I might as well do it right. So ordering the shims individually, they're $10 a pop from AF1. I cannot find them anywhere else on the internet unless it's from some parts house in Italy, and then I have no idea when I may or may not get those parts. So for now, I'm stuck. I can't even check to see which shims are in the front head because I can't put the rear head back together, or at least I guess you could, if you really wanted to do it the hard way, you could put it all back together with the wrong shims, or at least the original shims, that are all out of clearance, every single one of them, but one. This intake cam is the only, I kind of fudged the number a little bit because I wrote it down wrong, but this was the only one in the whole motor that was in spec in the middle of the clearance range. It's between 4 and 6 thousandths. It was already at 5, so I don't have to do anything to that one, but the other 15 were all out of spec. So what I have to do now is I just place the order with AF1. I have to wait until they ship it on, God, I don't even know, maybe Monday, since they're probably closed for business today, and then wait several days for them to ship it to me, and then only then can I put back together the rear head, put the cam caps back on, check the timing, check my valve clearances again to double check and make sure that they're still correct, and then I can start the process over again on the front head, which I'm betting with my luck will require me to do the whole fucking thing again, take everything apart, discover I need shims I don't have, and then have to place another order with AFM, wait another 3 or 4 days for shipping, wait another 3 or 4 days to actually get everything put back together, and then I might be able to actually start the bike. So, what's today? Friday. I've had the bike for 11, 12 days. I was really hoping to have it done by the first week of June. Even more importantly, by Father's Day weekend, so that I could try to sell it and take it downtown and park it somewhere. Most of all, I just want to ride the fucking thing, but apparently that's just not in the cards because, I don't know, they seem to draw the line in the shim kits. The cheaply available one, this was only $60. Less than that, actually. I think like $49. Awesome. But it seems that if you need any shims that are ever so slightly bigger than what this shim kit is available for on the big end, you're going to have to pay through the nose and wait days and days for your parts, and then put it all back together, check the other fucking cylinder head, the other 2 camshafts, the other 8 valves, and then see whether or not you're going to need to place another parts order. So, moral of the story, fuck the V4. I don't ever intend on doing this adjustment again. However, I am saving myself a buttload of money by not having someone else do it. And even though someone else could probably do it in a day or two, there's no way that I could afford to pay anyone to do it, to do everything else that I'm doing to this bike. So it is what it is. It just sucks that it's going to end up taking 3 weeks because I don't know, just the nature of the motor and the lack of availability of parts. If I had an Aprilia dealer who was willing to do shim swaps, that might be a different story. But ordering the parts, I mean, I snagged the last 2.65 millimeter shims from AF1 that they had in stock. So sorry to everybody else who may or may not need to order that anytime soon. I don't know what their restock times are, but again, Italy picked a wonderful pandemic-y time to buy an Italian bike and decide to take it completely apart. So, other moral of the story, if you want to just be a piece of shit and ride your bike into the ground and never check it, do not hesitate to buy a V4 or an Italian bike. If you're just going to ride it until it explodes, or you're going to pay someone else $2,000 to fix it, go for it. Don't hesitate at all. If you're like me, and you're super neurotic about working on things yourself because you want to learn how and you want to know a whole bunch about the bike and you want it done right and you don't want to pay someone to do it, I think at this point I can recommend that people not ride a V4, at least if you're going to plan on actually putting any miles on it. Some people have said that they checked their bikes from new and that straight from the factory their valve clearances were wrong. So that's super confidence inspiring. I'm not speaking to all Italian bikes, not all Italian V4s. Ducati is obviously in that market now. That's a Desmo system, so that's a whole other can of worms. But yeah, there's your fucking update.